Good evening, everyone. I'll call tonight's meeting to order for October 12th, 2022. Mr. Metz, if you would, please call the roll.
Sam Cornwall.
Here.
Roger Daniel.
Here.
Greg Emmerich.
Here.
Jamie Lukinas.
Here.
Paul Nenny.
Here.
Todd Moore.
Here.
John Langhorn. You have quorum.
Thank you. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags behind you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is our minutes from September the 14th. I wanted to make one clarification on page 3. Just clarify a statement that I made on page 3. It says Mr. Moore stated the product, researched it and support online. I would like to correct that, say it meets or exceeds architectural standards, just to clarify the support online. And also, I'd like to ask that we strike the comment below that talks about saving money. That wasn't the primary intent. The intent was the maintenance over the next 30 years. So it's really about the quality of the product itself. And then I'll ask if anyone else has any corrections to the minutes. Okay. So do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
When you're ready, Mr. Metz.
Todd Moore.
Yes.
Paul Nenny.
Yes.
Jamie Lukinas.
Yes.
Greg Emmerich.
Yes.
Roger Daniel.
Yes.
Sam Cornwall.
Yes.
Okay, this brings us to our public hearing this evening, preliminary development map and plan. Before we get started, I'll have to swear in Mr. Metz. You swear the testimony you're about to give the board is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. This is a request by applicant National Land Partners on behalf of the property owner, Napke Brothers, for preliminary development plan approval for a new subdivision that proposes 224 detached single-family homes with public streets. This project will also require a review by Middletown City Council, and I'll let Mr. Metz explain other staff details.
Thank you. So a little bit about the project. The subject property is zoned R1, which is Suburban Residential District. Per the Middletown Development Code, the purpose of the R1 Suburban Residential District is to provide for low-density suburban or rural residential development, to provide for larger lot housing options within the municipal boundaries that may or may not be served by a complete range of public infrastructure. Previously, in 2003, the subject property was approved by Planning Commission for 160 total homes within the River Bend development. The development was approved with 2 roads, River Trail Drive and River Chase Drive. As you see here to the left-hand side, this is what has been built out, and this was what to the right was what was intended to be built, but before it was built, the developer went bankrupt and the planned development went void. So still R1 zoning district. This is the proposed plan. This is the site plan for what the developer would intend to build. So a little bit of a difference there. This is the intended green space that was this map was provided also by the developer to showcase how much green space would be on this site. And they would leave as much vegetation there as possible. Kind of want to break down the difference between the existing R1 zoning district versus the proposed standards. So the minimum lot area currently for a lot within the R1 zoning district would be 30,000 square feet compared to the 6,400 proposed standards. Minimum lot width would go from 125 down to 60. Minimum lot depth would go from 225 to 108. Front yard setback would go from 50 to 30. Side yard setback would go from 10 to 6. Rear yard setback would go from 50 to 30, just like the front yard setback, and the max building height would stay the same. All single-family dwellings shall have a minimum of 1,700 square feet of livable floor area for all two-story or taller single-family dwellings, and 1,500 square feet for any single-family dwelling under 2 stories tall. This is pulled directly from the development code. The new development will have to have an HOA governing all open space and common areas, if not transferred to and accepted by the city, Butler County, the state, or park district. The new development would need to adhere to Chapter 1210.03 Architectural Standards for Residential Buildings, and the new development would need to adhere to Chapter 1216 Landscape and Buffering. Public notice was sent out, which was published 30 days beforehand. It was provided to all property owners contiguous within 200 feet of the rezoning. Other department comments, no other department comments have been received at this time. The review criteria for preliminary development plan and zoning map amendment. The following criteria shall serve as conditions that should generally be satisfied before the approval of a preliminary development plan and zoning map amendment. A, the proposed development is consistent with the master plan and other adopted city plans and the stated purpose of this code in section 120407B15. B, the proposed development is necessary or desirable because of changing conditions, new planning concepts, or other social or economic conditions. C, the proposed development will not be detrimental to present and potential surrounding uses, but will have a beneficial effect which cannot be achieved as well under other zoning districts. D, the proposed development will promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. E, the proposed development is not likely to result in significant adverse impacts upon the natural environment, including air, water, noise, stormwater management, wildlife, and vegetation, or such impacts will be substantially mitigated. And F, the preliminary development plan has been transmitted to all other agencies and departments charged with the responsibility of review. The applicants are here. That ends my staff report.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Metz before we open the public hearing? Okay. Well, this is a public hearing. I will now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed development, please come forward. Yes, sir. We can hear you on the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jeff Flaherty, 1 Mook Road, Wilder, Kentucky. I am the applicant's engineer.
Okay. You swear the testimony you're about to give to the board is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Just briefly stating kind of where we got to this plan. Obviously, with the SR1, the current zoning calls for the larger lots. Right now, with the economy where it is, inflation, interest rates, increasing, it's very obtainable for the larger lot, the larger the house, the fewer buyers that are available for those products. With not only this client and many of our other clients, we do development for many of the large home builders that are also developers in the area. I mean, we're going back through all of their plans and scaling stuff down to make it affordable, because what you were paying in a mortgage rate several months ago, that doesn't get you close to what you're getting today. So also with the smaller lots, I think if you go back to that green, if you can pull up the greenscape exhibit here, this allowed us to keep a lot of the vegetation, a lot of buffers around the site there to buffer from the neighboring communities. Obviously, if we went to the SR1 and we went to the larger lots, we still got to get enough houses in there to pay for the infrastructure. So you're going to be tearing up a lot more of that green space, and you're going to have a lot less green space on those larger lots. The smaller lots let us compress the width, how deep those lots are, which obviously lets you save a lot of that buffering around the edges to allow, for us not to be as visible from the neighbors. Also, there's some good elevation change. Those houses all to the north are several, there's 20 or 30 feet of elevation difference between those properties. So you're not going to really be on top of each other or be able to see each other, especially with that vegetation there. With if we go back to the single family residential there, we're probably going to have to pull those streets further away and get them lower to get the streets in to make those lots and those size houses fit, which is going to bring those elevations down, and you're going to be kind of more up against your neighbor. So that's why we kind of got to where we are and why this plan is presented as it is. So if you guys have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Well, one of the primary concerns that was listed to us from many of the folks in the room tonight, recognizing that you're proposing 224 homes with only one entrance into the development and out. Anything that you could tell us in more detail about that challenge?
Sure. Obviously, it's a topographic challenge. Obviously, the prior plan that was approved, there were a couple more houses, but it also had only one entrance in and out, due to the fact that the road that you connect to out there to the north, like I was saying, the houses are 30 or 40 feet lower. So in order to get a road down there, it would have to be super steep and basically unsafe unless someone owns those other houses back there that are not for sale necessarily. So in order to get another connection there, someone would have to be willing to sell, and you'd probably need 2 or 3 of them to be able to make that grade work. The city has a maximum slope that you're allowed to use for a road, and that slope would have to be more than what is allowed by the city code.
What do you expect the square footage of your average house to be in here?
So what do we have here? So a typical house is 48 by 48.
So
50 by 50, 1,000, right? So, yeah.
be lower, 2,000, I think.
Right. So, yeah, 23,000.
2,300.
Or, yeah, 2,300, I'm sorry. Which is a typical house that you're seeing, in the mid-range in your Fisher neighborhoods or your Drees or whatever. That's kind of the product line that the client is after.
And what price range are you shooting for?
Probably be a question for my client.
We'd have to swear you in before you make any testimony. Yeah. Would you like, sure, please. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Steve Martin, and I live at 1332 Fireside Court, Union, Kentucky.
Thank you, sir. You swear the testimony you're about to give the board is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
I work at National Land Partners, and we develop properties all over the country. We work with lots of national builders. We also work with regional builders. And I've not, we get a little bit further along. I haven't, finalized exactly who those builders are going to be. So, I don't have an exact target or price range. I'm just working on getting the product approved, and, that way I can present it to builders and go
So
from there.
you didn't have an idea of price before you came up with 226 homes?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I want to return back to the safety issue because that is within many emails that we've gotten. You do know the school that's there, Miller Ridge School. So there's a lot of traffic there as well. But then with a proposal of 224 homes, we can assume that folks are going to have more than one car, and just one way in and out of that particular development. Has there been any discussion with the city at all about a potential traffic study or potential looking at just another option to get in and out of that development?
A traffic study has not been required at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously, if that's a requirement, my client would be willing to do that. You know, if you look at this compared to the SR1 at-right development, that we can come in without, as long as we follow the rules, we get it. If you start looking at those peak, when you look at a traffic study, they study the peak AM and peak PM rates. You know, if you're looking at 150 to 220 homes, those peak rates, you're not talking about a huge number of difference. So rather we build this or we come in and build what he's allowed to build without getting any approval from you guys, you're going to see that those peak hourly rates are not going to be hugely different. 'Cause the peak hourly rates are based off of traffic models, and those models are how many homes you have, what hours of days. We're also seeing as more people are working at home, those models are continuously changing with new data. Each and every year they put the data in, but we're seeing with people working from home and remotely that those peak hourly numbers are going down for many reasons. But a lot of people aren't going 8 to 5 to work when they're working from home or they're working remotely. They're on all different schedules. So.
Okay. Any other questions? I was just going to return back once again to when we're looking at 224 homes. If I'm correct, you're saying that to decrease that number would mean that the project wouldn't be as economically viable. Is that correct?
I mean, any development, obviously, the more.
But recognizing the potential scrutiny that you would get from the neighbors.
Sure. No, I think, we like we do on every development, we put the roads in and follow the ridge lines and see where they fit best. I think that it can be tweaked, but I don't think there's a whole bunch of wiggle room to, maybe you lose 15, 20 houses. I think you start getting down, past that, you're gonna struggle to you got to pay for the infrastructure, whether there's 220 houses there or there's 200. The sewers all cost the same, the streets all cost the same.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, I think why we got to this mainly was to shield from the neighbors, the elevations. I think that this plan worked better than if we go back and we do the at-right development. But also to answer your question, yes, I think there's some wiggle room to shrink that down some.
That's really what I was asking, if there's any potential to maybe minimize that in some way. Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed development, please come forward. Okay. So seeing none, I'll now ask for those who wish to speak in opposition, please come forward. I know we have a number of folks in the room. We're not going to impose a time restriction, but if you could just be respectful of each other's time, that's all I ask. Please come forward. Yes, and I'll swear you in.
You want to swear everyone in that's speaking all at once? Are we allowed to?
We could.
I would.
How many folks do we have tonight that are planning to speak? The majority of the room? Okay. I was going to say, if we haven't done this before, would we want to swear all them in at the same time? We want to do that? And those who wish to speak, we'll swear you in now. We're not going to have their name and address on the record, though. That's the
You
only.
can say their name and address.
Okay,
We don't
okay.
have to-
Yeah. That's fine. We'll do that to save time tonight. If you would, those who are planning to speak, you'll please stand up and raise your hand. swear the testimony I'm about to give the board is truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you. And you'll state your name and address for the record as you give your testimony. Have a seat or stand either way.
I need the mic. Yeah, I'm Steve Price. I live at 2681 Arbor Point Drive. I'll sit down. Like you said, I'll sit down. I'm Steve Price. I live at 2681 Arbor Point Drive in Middletown. I have many of the same concerns about access in and out on one road, but I'll let my neighbors speak to that. I have two questions, really, I guess, and concerns. One, is that property split between Franklin City Schools and Middletown City Schools, or is it all in Middletown City Schools?
I believe it's all in Middletown City Schools, but we'd have to ask the applicant.
Because it goes back pretty far. There's a very good chance it could
Be
be
a section.
partly in.
Yeah.
Do we know the answer to that?
I'm pretty sure it's all in Middletown City Schools. I think that boundary line is the edge of our property.
I'll still state my concern, just in case, that part of it is in Franklin City Schools. In the past, we've had issues here. And I headed up an issue where there was a development out on Renaissance, and the development clearly was there because of the city of Middletown, but it happened to be in Franklin City Schools. And we knew it was a long shot, but as in a school district, we tried to say the development was there because of Middletown. We weren't successful annexing that into Middletown City Schools. It stayed in Franklin and it stayed in Lebanon. So I just don't want, and I know this is outside of your control, I don't want to see the state come in and all of a sudden reverse it. If the developer feels like houses will sell better because they're in Franklin City Schools, which happens, and it happened out there. And so I guess I want a commitment from the developer that if part of it is in Franklin City Schools, they're not going to, I mean, part of it's in Franklin and Middletown, they're not going to try to annex to Franklin City Schools the part that's in Middletown. And you can't do that without a state hearing, but it starts with somebody asking for it from the developer side.
Excellent.
So,
Thank you.
my other concern is the last time a subdivision was built just above us, it appears to me, I'm not an engineer, I would love to have an engineer come out from Middletown and look at this, but it appears to me an effective engineering study wasn't done about water pressure created by the retention pond, because I live with a stream that runs past my house from that, comes directly from that retention pond. The day that that retention pond was finished and started draining in there was the day that the side of my hill started eroding. I don't mean a little bit. I mean boulders the size of a car that was on the hill by the builder, originally put there to make the hill stable, washed down into it. And I lost a ton of rocks down in there, and now my house goes like this, and it just drops straight off. And the only way the lot next door to me is going to sell now is if they come in and pipe it and cover it up, and like they did to my neighbors originally. So I don't know what the solution is with the pressure from the water and where it's going to go, but I sure hope they look downstream. And because it doesn't appear to me that anybody ever looked downstream on the last subdivision, because it's a mess. It's a total mess right now. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can just state your name and address for the record, yes.
My name is Lenny Robinson, 6408 Lindsay Court, Franklin, Ohio. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an industrial and commercial real estate broker and developer. I've been doing that for almost 42 years. I've had some experience with residential, and I'm here on the basis that I have been retained by some property owners to look at the project from a development standpoint. And that's what I'm going to talk about. I served on the Middletown Housing Committee that former city manager Doug Atkins started. And there was a whole host of people from throughout the community that worked on that for well over a year. It was presented to the city of Middletown, I believe in April of 2018. I think Planning Commission also got a copy of that report as well. A lot of work was done in that, and there were some surprising facts and figures that came out. But one of the items that did come out is we need larger homes. We need more executive style homes. And one of the documents that was in that report is some stats that we discovered from 2000 to 2015, City of Middletown lost 3,477 workers in the first 15 years of this century. One of the issues that was raised is there's no place for them, for the executives or the upper management to live. We have a lot of lower income housing. We have a lot of starter homes. We have a lot of small homes. We don't have a lot of big homes. And I'll make the comment that the engineer mentioned. He goes, if I put smaller lots in, then I can have more green space. Well, if you have bigger houses, you're still going to have big lawns and trees, and you're still going to have a lot of green space. So I'll just add that. And it's a little disturbing when you look at where it's currently zoned at 30,000 square feet, and they're going to almost 1/5 that size. And you've got only 6-foot side yards, according to what they have, because under the PD code, they can set what it is with your blessing as far as setbacks. So that would be a concern right there. I know, for example, if you go out to Shaker Run, there are a lot of people who have some really nice houses out there, but they don't have to all subscribe to the same paper because they can read it through their neighbor's window. In the Middletown Master Plan, specifically the Northern Brill Boulevard area, the development opportunity area, and it talks about the vision. It says the purpose of the R1 subdivision, James covered this, is to provide low-density suburban or rural residential to provide for larger lot housing options within the municipal boundaries that may or may not be served by a complete range of public infrastructure. That's exactly what this property is. And it says the PD Development District, it allows for deviations from certain zoning standards that would otherwise apply if not contrary to the general spirit of the intent of the code. I've yet to hear from anybody on the development side how this meshes with the surrounding properties. It doesn't. There is nothing you can point to on an aerial map that tiny little 6,400 square foot lots go with bigger lots, Arbor Point or along Riviera Drive. And speaking of the drive, I would certainly recommend the TIS because not only will it incorporate what this plan is, it'll also do the schools, plus the other development property at some point may get developed, who knows. You have to take all of that into account. And when I'm looking at the plan right there, we'll note that there are 2 access points off of Riviera that the developer has totally ignored as far as any kind of development. And we said we'd have to buy houses to make the road. No, you don't. You can use your own property to excavate down and get your right grade. You can do it all on site. And he hasn't talked anything about balancing the property, how that's going to work. But in the master plan for the city of Middletown, the proposed density is, if you're doing this, is comparable to similar development density in the neighborhood. And it says, describes density as shall be defined as where the proposed density of the subject application does not exceed the density of an adjacent development with similar uses by more than 10%. Statistically, mathematically, doesn't work here. So that's a problem. The other thing that I haven't been able to get an answer to is lift stations. I've dealt with lift stations. They're extremely expensive to install. They're even more expensive to operate and maintain. And I haven't heard anything about how that's going to be done with the City of Middletown. I've checked with the City of Middletown Engineering and with Public Works. There's nothing in the code about lift stations. I know we do have a couple of lift stations in town. One is Middletown Energy, put one in. And there may be one out at Sawyer's Mill. But it's not a popular item because sooner or later they're going to break. So there's a lot of information that has to be gathered about what kind of backup power are you going to have for a lift station? Because if it goes wrong, pardon me, but you're up the creek without a paddle. And you don't want to do that. They smell. Yeah, it's a bad thing. So I don't know about the capacity. I had heard at one time we don't have enough capacity out there, but that may have changed. There are just so many questions that have to be answered on this. And I guess I will summarize this by saying when I did talk to city staff, I was asking questions, and they said, well, the applicant filled out just the bare minimum. Let that sink in. That's what we have right now. We have the bare minimum. We don't have any answers. So I think before this council can go ahead and approve something like this, there are a whole ton of questions that have to be answered. They have to be asked and answered. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
didn't get applause.
You should run for office.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, please come forward. And, as you come to the mic, just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jim Ratty. I live at 2860 Arbor Point. So some of what I say will be Department of Redundancy Department because we've already talked about the traffic issues. One thing that didn't come up in that, though, is the construction traffic. Just like all the traffic for the residents going in and out, all this construction traffic is also going to be funneled in and out of Miller. That'll go on for a period of years as the development is built out, and that road, I don't think, was designed for that volume of that heavy a traffic. So I'm concerned about what it'll do to Miller Road and the cost to the city of having to come in and have that repaired and so on. There's safety aspects to this. If there's some kind of an emergency at the school and there's an accident or some kind of a blockage on the road, I just really think it needs some kind of a traffic study to look at the impacts of having that many houses. Even as previously planned, 160, I think there would be traffic issues, but certainly with 224. That's more than a 400% increase in the number of homes in that area, all funneled through Miller Road. So issues there. And I'm lastly concerned about property values with development of this density and the size and style of homes that would be in there. It's, as the previous speaker indicated, it is not really compatible with the existing neighborhoods, and I'm afraid would have a negative impact on property values for the current residents. That sums up my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I'll stand so people can see me and hear me. Excuse me. Thank you. I'm Susan Miller, and I live at 2660 Arbor Point Drive. We have been in Middletown about 40 years, and we are proud to live in Middletown, and I want you to know that. And builders, we are for development, and we want that. But this one road entry is my big concern. The number of children would increase at Miller Ridge. That would be a real concern. What if we had an active shooter? My nephew is a sergeant here at Middletown, and he would not be able to get to that school if it was active roads at that time. What if it was a bomb? And whatever they call those people who detonate bombs, they couldn't get to the school because I'm telling you, when we come out of Arbor Point at the right time of day, you can't move the traffic. They won't let you out. They have to get to work. And I do agree more people are working maybe at home, but they have to get home. And not everybody lives in the area. What if there was a fire in one of the homes? Our daughter lives in Renaissance, and she lives on a cul-de-sac. And a couple years ago, 2 houses down, a house caught fire, their whole area. And the flames took it from the roof, and it was a scary time. So how would fire trucks, big fire trucks, get in that one way during that time? We believe that the safety of the children in the school should be the highest priority. The people of Middletown have a right to expect that the City Planning Commission of Middletown has its top priority the safety and the health of its families in our communities. The safety of the families and the homes surrounding the school should be top of this developer's plan. This isn't for financial gain. As a former professor of nursing at Miami University, I taught my students critical thinking and critical decision making. I think the developer needs to think about the real impact of this one access road to this new development plan. This is not about finances, and to me it's not really about size of the house or footage. It's about the safety and the health of our people that live here. I'm asking National Land Partners of Massachusetts, that you become better partners with the City of Middletown, work with us for better solutions than to propose this kind of development. Thank you very much.
My name's Dave Pike. I live on 4643 Biller Road. I just have an observation here. The engineer, he's centered around 224 homes, but you gotta add 26 more just for River Chase Road. So that point where it intersects with Miller Road, you're talking 250 people, not homes, which is more than what they're talking about. Yeah, in Arbor Point, it wasn't on the map, I didn't see it. And the other thing, he made mention, and I think it was item D on his third page, how it's gonna improve the safety and well-being. I don't see where it's improving any safety at all.
Nervous. My name's Becky Griffith. I live at 4643 Miller Road. And I'm emotional about this. Me and Megan back there, who've lived on that street for 36 years or more. And it was just an old country road, and we know how things can change. We know that there's progress. But her grandfather built this house there, and she lives in that house now, and her mother lived in that house. And we've seen how things change, and yes, me and her mom fought to have green space, and that's what we have across from my street. Because if you look at that map, I'm the big rectangular lot. Dave and I are the rectangular lot, 4643 Miller Road, and we're right beside Riverbend. And yes, I cried when all the trees were cut down and cracking. And yes, I cried when the trees went down on this side. And then the trees went down for Arbor Point. And yes, I know it can't stay a country road forever. But the traffic and then what this would do, there's way too many houses. There's just way too many houses, way too much traffic. I worked night shift, I'm a nurse. And I'm not as well spoken, but I have seen how the traffic changes and it goes down. You've got people in Miller Ridge who have to deal with this traffic too. It's not just us on the other end of Miller. So yes, I had to fight to keep Miller Road from cutting the front of my lawn down. I had to fight for green space along with Candy, her mom, to keep green space. And yes, there's green space there, but there's way too many houses, way too much traffic. I watch, and I don't want to offend anybody that lives in the subdivisions, but there's just so much traffic and they don't observe the zones. It's a school zone there. And some of them observe it, and some of them don't. And some of the buses observe it, and some of them don't. If you had a cop sitting out there and try to watch the zooming, and yes, on my letter to you, NASCAR Nation. And I'm a NASCAR girl. I like fast, but not on my street. I had a dog that was hit by a woman speeding down Miller Road. So we've got too many nice houses and too many nice neighbors who care about their property, who care about the safety of these kids, who care about each other. For this many houses to come in and affect the safety, and you talk about the drainage. I have 2 acres, and no, I don't have to look at anything else. I'm surrounded by trees. Does it affect me visually? I'm hoping not. I don't think so. But it's going to affect everybody in their subdivisions, because the people who have lots that back up to this first street on Riverbend, their yards go up like this and then it levels out. I don't know where you're talking about green space or trees or anything, because there is none, until you get back into the gorge and you start getting back into these properties on Riviera. So you're talking about drainage up in those homes. What are you going to do about that? I've got a retention pond next to us, and man, when the rain comes, it's affecting the folks in Arbor Point.
I know better than most.
And I think there's a retention pond back on one of the cul-de-sacs behind my house, you guys, on Arbor Point, on the first cul-de-sac. Isn't there a retention pond back there somewhere?
No, it's your backyard.
It's just that, okay, excuse me.
I mean, it's dry. There is.
Okay,
There's never any water in it.
there's not,
It's
okay.
extremely-
Okay, well, I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Just please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, folks. My name is Timothy Schmalley, and I represent the properties at 4717 Miller Road, as well as 4822 Miller Road. I'd like it to be on the record that we did not receive a letter, and we did not see notice in the paper. Our neighbor, Becky, had to bring this to our attention. It is very disappointed being the last 150 acres between this proposed subdivision and the woods that we were not informed of this. But here we are. Thanks everybody who has voiced your concerns. We share many of these concerns. Some of our concerns, though, are a little different, as we're the last sandwich between Riviera and the woods, where Marshall was proposed to come through, and where Miller Road ends. We fear that we will be condemned to many more houses that are just like this, to ever increasing density and size restrictions, all for the sake of as many homes as possible on the square footage that's allotted. The builder testified that he had no idea what the price point for these homes were, but he also said it'd be about 2,300 square foot. Well, anybody with Google can find out the average price per square foot is $222 per square foot right now. That was from a Rocket Mortgage article, September 29th. I did that while we were sitting here. That would make each of these homes $510,000. I'd like to know how they're going to pitch 12 foot between each houses for $500,000. Because for my money, that doesn't compute, not at all. So my wife, Megan, is the third generation that has lived on this land. And my son, who is very bravely standing to the side here, Lucas, is the fourth generation. And we hope that there is a fifth and perhaps a sixth, because we would like our children to grow up in the land that my wife grew up in, on the land that her mother grew up from a young child on. It's unfortunate that her mother could not be here today. She's struggling with some health issues, but her concerns are our own. It's also unfortunate that her grandmother, my child's great-grandmother, Audrey Schroff, cannot be here today. She lives down in Arbor Point with many of her neighbors. She is struggling with health issues as well, but her concerns mirror our own. Megan?
Megan Schmalley, 4717 Miller Road and 4822. This is not our first rodeo. We fought Miller Ridge. Krista wanted to put 90 homes where Miller Ridge sits. I was in college at the time, but Becky and my mom fought tooth and nail because it's important to future generations. As a teacher in the district, I teach here in Middletown. The schools are overflowing. They just built add-ons to Rosa Parks to overflow from some of the existing schools. Miller Ridge isn't going to handle another large amount of students. There's just not the space right now for that many homes. I have to laugh. I've been chuckling the entire time. That nice little green space, don't know if anybody has actually hiked that green space. That green space is
The Grand Canyon.
12-foot, 16, 20-foot ravines. So when they pitch green space, know that they can't build there, or they would have. They would have put homes there if they could have. But that ravine is so significant that there is no way to build. So know that though it looks good on paper, they would have built there if they could have. So, speaking on behalf of Schroff Acres as well, we keep talking about Arbor Point and Riverbend, and yes, those are the two immediate, but we have to look at the homes down in Schroff Acres. They are going to be just as impacted, even though obviously none of them got letters like us. Nobody of them, because they're not 200 feet from the property line. But to be honest, they are going to have just as much of an impact with traffic as everything else. So that whole 200-foot is not reflective of what's going in. If you want your neighbors to know about what's going into Middletown, you need to expand that. The timbers, the woods, because this is a huge, I'm gonna put it nicely, eyesore on the city of Middletown. This is not the vision. As Lenny said, this is not the vision. So it is in your hands to decide what you want out of this city and how you want to see this city grow and develop and prosper. What kind of people do you want to continue bringing into the city? What kind of students do I want to continue having and to build the district to make it a great, an even greater district? I'm proud to work in Middletown, and I want to continue that. And I want to make sure the families we bring in are also going to be proud to be here. On the point of safety, several years back, a little boy named Cain was hit and killed right there. Now, granted, that person wasn't turning into the neighborhood. From my knowledge, that person wasn't turning in. But a 10-year-old boy was struck dead at that corner right there. We have that many more cars, 500 cars coming in and out a day. Though, yes, a few are going to work from home. Let's face it, this is Middletown. We have a lot of people commuting. Miller Ridge Elementary is backed up halfway down Briel. Try to get into Miller Road at 8:30 in the morning. I wouldn't know, I'm at school. But
Out of my driveway. Trying to get out of my driveway.
yeah, so the school traffic's already backed up halfway down Briel. So moot point there. But last thing I want to talk on behalf of my grandmother, Audrey Schroff, who again is that 4822 and 4811. It's the other 88 acres, which is adjoining to us. She was promised, and probably not by any of you, but because the moratorium on the build was many years ago, we've had many, many people interested in our plots of land, but we have been told by the city over and over and over that there will be no new development, which is why the original of that wasn't developed, because there was a moratorium on building in order to deal with the wastewater system. So what happened to that? I understood somebody said a 10-year and it's up. But again, the people that are impacted the most were never told. The people that would have that were never informed of that. So is that sewer system still an issue? Because that's still in the air. You know, again, I'm just going to say that the safety of those around, the prosperity of the city, and the vision for what you want Middletown to be in the next 50, 100 years. Do you say your piece? No. Okay. You sure?
One opportunity. You can tell Mr. Robinson.
He's already been sworn in.
I may speak on the young man's behalf. He said, quote, "I think it will make some people cranky." End quote.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
Man, I hate allergies. My name is Kenneth Gant. I live on River Chase. I don't know if you need the exact address or not, but what I'm looking at this plan, like numerous people said it, the road that goes in. We got one coming in, you turn right, that's it. Then you're at a dead end. Trying to add that road doesn't even show on this map. Okay, you got a circle, look like a cul-de-sac. That's not what's actually there. When you go in there and you start putting that many homes and no roads out, that is a problem. Where you gonna go? I mean, it's like, it's quickly developed. They found somewhere where they could put houses, right? But no planning was put to that. Because even on the other side, if you bought roads, you can go out the other side. On this side, you can't buy it because someone owns the property. So that's what I'm seeing here. So the other thing is, when they asked the question, what builder's coming in, it might have not been important to you. But that is important because, see, I watched this area since 2006. It was Dixon Homes there. I was planning on buying with Dixon. I got stuck with Cristo. And it does make a difference. The siding on every home in Riverbend is falling off. That's the part that you might not see here later. So with that being said, you're also talking about sewage. I was also told since 2006 that there's not enough drainage for nobody to build back there, is why I bought my home. Okay, so now you're telling me you got 220-something houses coming in, that kills our value. Whether you realize it or not, it does. Especially if you don't know the price point and what you're coming in with. So if you come in with something that's lower than what we got now, and I watched that happen, even with me being with Cristo, the homes on Arbor Point was a lot more expensive. Okay, so my house is not going to compare to their price point at this time. It helps mine come up, I will say that. But if you put something too low there, it's going to help all of us come down. So that is a question. The other thing I'm looking at, the sewage, what are you going to do? I read the letter. It says you're going to put a lift station in. That means you're pumping up sewage and trying to pump it out somewhere. Where you pumping it to? That's another question I have that's not in the letter. The other thing is, what happens when that fails? It's going to fail. They say they last 25 years if they're lucky, if they're maintained. It's hard to get someone to maintain the sign to keep the hedges trimmed. How you going to maintain that sump pump? So those are my questions. And I think those should be addressed before we can even talk about moving forward with something. I've seen a lot of subdivisions. I've looked at a lot. And that's why I picked this one. Now you got like a major subdivision coming in with a small plan. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Michelle Aragoni, and we live at 2702 River Chase Drive. We just moved here 4 years ago, and when we built our home, we had looked at Arbor Point. And the properties that we really, really liked in Arbor Point were down over the hill. And every single one had to have their own private uplift station. And there was no way we were going to deal with an uplift station after living with a septic tank up north. We never had problems with our septic tank up north. But whenever the electricity went out or we had problems, they were major problems. So there was no way we were going there. My first question is, why aren't these homes each having their own uplift station like Arbor Point is doing? Why do you have to have one big uplift station for all of them? My other question is, or my main thing is, I agree with everybody else that came before me. Every one of their concerns are major, major concerns for all of us. The property that we have does not affect us on here, where we're at. The only thing that will affect us is the traffic going in and out. We have a beautiful acre and a half behind us. It's all wooded. We have pathways through it. It's like our own natural park. So we don't even need the green space that you're promoting. But to top it all off is my main question is, if the developers would take a look at our area and truly look at our neighborhood, you will be able to see, we've only lived here 4 years. In Riverbend, 2 houses have been in Riverbend, and they're nice homes, mine and the other one. The other homes in Riverbend are very nice. If you go to Arbor Point, within the last 4 years, they've built 9 homes in that housing plan. 9. They're nice, big homes. So if the developer does their due diligence and takes a good look, it's what the other gentleman said earlier, we don't have big homes in this area. We have a lot of low-cost housing. We had Section 8 put in here, and I've only been here for 4 years, and I know that. The bottom line is, if you really do your due diligence, you could get some beautiful homes in that area and still meet your profit margin. You won't go below your profit margin. And that's just common sense by looking at what's going. I mean, the houses in our housing plan, as soon as they go up for sale, they're gone within 3 days. The houses in Arbor Point have been growing like crazy, and they're doing a beautiful job over there. So I truly believe if the developer really wanted to come into this area, they could make some beautiful homes, smaller amounts, maybe like the other plan was. I don't know, because I don't know much about the other plan other than what I've seen. But the bottom line is the reason why we bought what we did in Middletown was because we were told the same thing. There would be no more development in Middletown because of the sewage. And then the other one main question I have, the uplift station is an extreme concern of mine, but the other thing that I have is, where's the gas line on this property? The gas line goes right through, and I don't see it on there. So how are you going to plan for the gas line that's going through there? That's something I think the developers and the planning commission needs to look into. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Jerry Rogers. I live at 4536 Miller Road, which is on the west side of Brill, just south of Miller Road. And along with the concerns that have been expressed, I wholeheartedly have agreed with. One thing that troubled me when this first started was the engineer and the developer, per se, really had no answers. They come here, I'm not demeaning them, don't misunderstand me, but to show up with basic questions with no answers, I mean no answers for basic questions. I'm concerned about the development. Originally, back in 2001, let me back up here. I built a home in 2016, 2015, the last slide over in Miller Ridge. And at that time, unbeknownst to us, there was an article that was published in the Middletown Journal that featured a picture of our home. And it was about Middletown wanting to get bigger and better homes brought in, just like with what Mr. Robinson was talking about. Lenny was talking about the executive style homes. Well, ours is not an executive style home, and it's not a totally upper end home. In this area, the prices that I did on my own calculation, and it's probably off, but they run from about $311,000
to close to $900,000. Now, I see in this plan originally for the development under Dixon Builders, the minimum lot area was going to be 30,000 square feet. Now it's 6,000, which is, if my calculation's right, it's about an 80% reduction in the size of each lot. The minimum lot width is 60 feet under the current plan. My home is 60 feet wide. My home is going to be as wide as these lots are, but they're going to put a home that's 48 by 48. Now, like I said, we don't have a huge home, but we do have some green space. And let's say the depth of the lots, they were supposed to be 225 feet deep under Dixon. Now they're 100 feet. That's, what, 50% less? I mean, this is just insane. And it was referred to the young man that died being hit. And I know the circumstances were different, but it alludes to the traffic situation. There are people who go to Miller Ridge Elementary, including myself, for walks, to play on the playground equipment, to get out and watch the sunset or the moon set. You got some beautiful views from there. They come from Arbor Point. They come from Miller Ridge. They come from River Chase or the River Bend area. There's going to be people going across this road at all the time, all hours of the day. I have seen the traffic backed up all the way to Brill, and the people trying to get into Arbor Point and River Bend, they have to illegally go around the stopped traffic, go head on into a left turn lane, then try to manage head-on traffic that's in a dual turn lane, safety lane, in order to get into Arbor Point or to go into River Chase. Now, after having and being and kneeling next to Cain as Cain was dying, I don't want to ever see that again. Now, years ago, I was a first responder. I've seen my fill of death in horrible situations. I really don't want to see that again. The traffic that is going to be coming in and out. Okay, 224 homes. Average family, 2 cars? Okay, 224 homes, 2 cars. That's what, 448 cars potentially coming in and out on River Chase and then River Trail, one way in, one way out. Now, I know that's not going to happen all the time. We're not going to have that much traffic in and out. Take 25%, take 50%. That's still a lot of traffic. People coming out of this new subdivision wanting their kids to go to Miller Ridge Elementary. Where are they going to be when the parents have to bring them up and drop them off into the school or pick them up? And they live back in here. What's the traffic going to be like on River Chase and going up on River Trail? And how far back up in it? The ravine, I mean, the lady that was talking, it's a ravine. They can't put houses there. Looks nice on paper. Real life, not so. In that article that I originally talked about where our house was featured, it was said that Middletown wanted to bring in higher-end homes. And they were even offering, if I can remember this right, and I may be wrong, but they were offering an incentive or some sort of a tax break or something to try and get developers to build homes in Middletown. Well, not specifically here, but in Middletown as a whole. Okay, I think there was a developer here in town that just off of Riverview was going to put in patio homes. I'm not going to mention the developer. And I guess the developer ran into all sorts of problems with having to have retention ponds and EPA issues, water drainage, whatever. And what I'm getting at is these patio homes that were going in were in a community of for 50 years of age and older. And from what I understand, every single proposed lot that was going to be offered was already spoken for before the plan was even finalized. And my wife and I were one of the ones that was going to be going over it. We were really disappointed when it fell through. Lenny brings up a very good point. We have enough, well, Lenny and a couple of other people, we have enough lower income housing. Now, if this developer wants to do this, are these homes going to have brick wrapped? Are they going to be vinyl siding? Are they going to have hardy siding? It's going to be longer lasting. It'll be less maintenance. It'll increase the value. The construction of the home. Shoot, engineer and developer couldn't give an answer on that. Had no idea what the price point was going to be. Well, I'm not exactly looking to have my property value go down in my retirement years when I'm going to be using that eventually at some point in time, probably as money that I'm going to have to live on. Okay, that's beside the point. I don't like the idea of not being notified. I know our home is not within 200 feet, but I never saw a notice, never read it in the paper, and we'd actually been looking for potentials of other properties. My wife's been looking. I guess maybe we overlooked it. I'm sure legally it was in the paper somewhere and we missed it, but we never got a notice. The developer or the engineer was talking about access into here and said, well, you know, there's homes that aren't for sale, you know, or maybe land that could be bought, and then we'd have to cut down and we'd have to get the slope because there's a minimum slope, which I'm sure there is. I'm not an engineer. And it would make it unprofitable. It would just really cut into the profits that the company is going to have. Lenny brought up a point about there's other access points that are possible to get in here, but yet that wasn't brought up. So it still comes back down to money. Of course, business is. You're in business to make money. Not knocking that. I'm not against development in Middletown. I've lived here all of my life, except when I was in school. I want to see Middletown thrive. But this isn't the way to go and do it. And especially, no. And I'm looking over the list, you know, it's of reasons why to have, or the, you know, why it's R1 and why it's set up that way. And I really can't see where this is going to benefit. And the concern I have as the property owners, because it's one way in and one way out. Now I can see this happening, and I'm not here accusing any of you here, but I can see this possibly happening. I can see somewhere down the road, to get this development in, somebody talks about eminent domain. And somebody may come up and say on the property, you know, we need these roads to come into here, so this is the best place to do it, so we're going to come in and we're going to take your land. We're going to give you a fair market value for it, but we're going to take your land whether you like it or not. And what I know of eminent domain here in Ohio, I'm no attorney, but they can do it. So somebody here potentially may lose some land they don't want to give up. Maybe it might take care of the traffic issue, but it's going to affect somebody else in a serious way. I make a suggestion, bigger houses, go back to the lot size it was approved to begin with. Make the higher end home, or if these homes come in, really make the developer, whoever that's going to be, wrap it in brick, wrap it with hardy siding, make it not a cracker box home. Go down the road at Manchester and, well, there's a new development here in town. Just go take a look at some of the homes. You can turn down the street and you won't be able to know which one was your house because they all look the same. You can reach out and you can read the person's newspaper like Lenny was talking about. That's how close they are. But this is ill-conceived, and I would urge all of you to, I know it's hard to say no politically, and I know it's hard to say no personally because of the flack that you all may get. I don't envy your guys' job, I really don't. But this is a big no. This is a mistake the way it's laid out, and I'd ask you all to really consider that.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Brenda Joseph. I'm the last plot in Middletown at 5008 Riviera Drive. When I built my house 27 years ago, I had to come to you guys because they put an aeration system in. They said the Titus lift station could not take one more house. So how's it gonna take these cookie cutter houses? What's this going to do for the drainage? Because when they take all those trees out, it's going to run. It's going to flood our property on Riviera Drive. What's it going to do to our wells? All these houses have wells. We just got a fire hydrant 6 months ago. What's that going to do for the maintenance and street people? My street gets plowed by Warren County because that's where I work, and I made a deal with them that if they plow mine, they can back in my drive and go back up because I am the last house, so I'm right there on the line. So what's it going to do for your street workers and your maintenance people? What's that going to do for your police force and your other emergency response? We're already straining. So to build that many houses is going to put a strain on our schools. It's going to put a strain on the traffic. It's going to put a strain on all these houses that have wells, the drainage, and all that. So I think that they really need to look at their building. I know I was in opposition of Dixon Builder, and I'm really in opposition of this. And if this subdivision does go forward, I see a lot of people leaving these other homes because it will devalue our home. When I built my house, I got a whole list of things of do's and don'ts that we could do. We had to build a brick house. We had to make our house present and look a certain way. So we blended with the other neighbors on Riviera Drive. I did not get notified. My neighbor gave me this, and I would like to be notified of any further meetings that you guys have, because no one on our block, because I asked several of the neighbors, no one knew of it. We got this from another neighbor, not on our street, on one of the back streets. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vicki Staley. I just left a neighborhood like this. We bought our house on River Chase Drive in January. So I never would have bought that house had we known this was a possibility. We like the green space, we like the quiet, we like the great place at Miller Ridge to walk. I'm concerned about all the things that the other people said, the traffic, the safety, the amount of kids in the school. But the gas line runs through our property. And when we moved there, we had someone from Enbridge come out and talk to us about the gas line. They're not allowed to build or even plant trees within 20 feet on either side of the gas line. And that is not on this plan at all. That's my biggest concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Lang, 4621 Amberley Terrace. That's Arbor Point subdivision. I'm going to reiterate a lot of the things that people have already said. I counted the existing homes that are in the two neighborhoods, including the farmhouse. There are 58 homes. That includes the new construction that isn't quite indwelling yet in Arbor Point. And you're going from 58 to 224 to add that. I ask each of you to drive through these areas, specifically as Miller Ridge is going into school and leaving school, and try to get out of River Chase or Arbor Point. And God help you, if that light is green and you want to head toward Brielle, it's the Audubon, and it's a free-for-all. So that's just with 58 houses plus the school district. Is Miller Ridge going to be able to handle this influx of students? It's a desirable elementary school within the district. We have people coming in from other areas, and their parents are driving them in, which is great. We welcome any student that wants to come and learn, as we do with any of the schools in the district. But are we going to be able to handle that at Miller Ridge? One of the other teachers that talked about we're already overflowing in that. So that's a concern there. The other thing that gas line, that is an excellent point. The gas line runs through our backyard. You can't build a shed or structure or anything. We even had to segment our driveway that in case when they came and did an aerial view on it, that if they said, nope, you're too close, we could pull part of our driveway off of that gas line, the natural gas line that's coming through. So part of the concerns we have are the same thing. Traffic, this is a lot of houses. And I just can imagine how fast people are going to come through this area, coming through the district, coming through past the Miller Ridge, and where are all these people really going to go? 2 cars would be a really soft guess. I drove through the neighborhoods before I came here tonight. There's at least 2 cars at every house, and some of them are going to be 4. We're going to be a 4-car house in another 6 months or so, God help us all, when he starts driving. But that's it. If you go through and you take that many cars at 2+ or 2.5, if you even want to be on that side of it, there's just going to be that much more traffic there. And what tax on the infrastructure is that going to do? How much more overload can it take? We already go down with pretty much windstorms, and all our utilities are underground. I don't know if that's been addressed with you, if you're going to keep underground utilities like they are in the 2 other subdivisions. But the power station, I think, is down on the other side of Miller Road, and I'm not sure what it takes, but I know when Hurricane Ike as a Category 1 hit us, we were without a power for almost a week. So, and that was we're at the end of that line, I think. So that's some other things that have come into consideration is where's everything going to be lifted up for sewage? Where's the power going to come from? Where's the traffic going to go? Because just drive through during those times when school's in and school's letting out. It is a difficult place to get through. And we all came into this area because it is beautiful. Miller Ridge is a beautiful setting. The Schroff family farm, I mean, it sets the tone for everything that's back there. And it's just, we all share the same concerns. No one wants to see their property value go down. We all want to see Middletown to expand and grow and progress, Midi rising. But at what cost? Thank you.
Hello. I'm terrible at public speaking, so forgive me. I'm Courtney Killen. Many of you might know my grandfather. He was Tom Blake. He sat on city council for a very long time. I recently moved into his former home. It was his dream home. He moved in from gratis when he became city commissioner, and Blake Steel Company and everything else. He put a lot into the town, and he really believed into the town. So after his passing, I took over his home. The Schmally Slough family have been, Megan and I have grown up together since like kindergarten. We finally refer to her property as the 100-acre woods, rightfully so. And although it doesn't directly affect me because I live a couple streets, actually I live 1 mile from her driveway to my driveway, but it doesn't directly affect me, but the trickle-down effect will. The property values will go down. Traffic, as we mentioned, I used to love walking up and down the Briel extension. I don't like to anymore. People go flying down that road. And after the young gentleman that was, struck and killed right there at the corner, it really just kind of brings awareness to everything. My girls, they're 6 and 4. They see those teddy bears. They see the signs. As we're pulling into the Schmalley family's drive going up that way, they always say, "Mommy, why are those bears out there?" And I have to tell them, "Hey, a little boy lost his life due to the traffic coming in." So it is a big concern for me as being a homeowner, as well as being a parent, in the area too, as well as my own safety going up and down the street. But my main thing is to talk about the 100-acre woods. Many fond memories, many bonfires. I grew up there. It's my second home. She's my family, an extension of my family, her mom and my mom. Great friends, and I just hate to see our little sanctuary, so to speak, kind of go downhill because of building this, as she fondly refers to it, as a eyesore that's coming in with it. So I just want you to take into consideration, instead of looking at the dollar signs and what this all may bring, as many of these other people have said, hey, like, you're a stone's throw away from your neighbor. I can read your newspaper. We're that close to each other. It's going to bring down value. It's going to bring in a lot of traffic. There's safety issues, many, many other things to consider. But just to look aside, like I said, the dollar sign and consider the people as a whole in the community and how it greatly impacts them personally rather than what's just on paper. So that's all.
Anyone else? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
I just want to say something. I don't want to have to get up there. But if you look at Middletown, the east end of Middletown, you got the new high school and how that's growing and how that's developed. You've got all those students. You've got all those kids at Middletown High School, Middletown Middle School, and you've got John 23rd down the road, and you got Wildwood School down the road. Traffic patterns are a big deal in this town because of where those schools are. But also the east end of Middletown is a nice end of Middletown. The property that backs up to Megan's property, the backs up to the Schroff property to the old Miller Road, that was a farm at one time, that field. And so there's nice homes all the way around going down Riverview, Manchester Manor. You guys all know what I'm talking about. All these homes. So all these homes are nice. None of them are built like this. And we're trying to keep that feeling in the east end of Middletown. That's why people move the east end of Middletown. Now there's beautiful homes down Central Avenue. I've lived in Middletown all my life. There's beautiful homes all over Middletown, but just what everybody else has said, but the east end of Middletown is a nice place to be. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else? Okay, let's pause on that for just a moment, and then we'll bring you back up. We're going to take a short 10-minute break, restroom break, and then we'll answer your questions, and we'll move to staff recommendations and deliberation. So, going to take a short 10-minute break.
I figured the way he was sprinting out of here.
Hey, Lenny, is this yours?
Well, it's me.
Need the exercise now.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. How are you?
Okay.
Got it bad, don't you?
You know what? It just started last night. I was down in Louisville. I started getting a tick when I woke up.
I got the same thing.
And I just, you know, and I don't, it's just, I was here, I got a cough. Allergies. It just, it's sorry for my throat a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I did tell her. I told her.
Oh, yeah.
I was a superintendent.
Yeah.
I've been on these people. I always
Certainly understand, yeah.
And then when we were building the new schools, this is a tiny crack compared to some of the stuff that we had to go through.
I can only imagine, yeah.
We had a rougher one about.
For every school.
Oh, no.
We had a rougher one 3 or 4 months ago, so this isn't too bad.
Yeah. The D.R. Horton case was pretty tough, yeah.
The BP. You already heard what I had to say. Is that close to Commerce? Yeah. Commerce comes down. Drainage is
Glad you're here.
So I actually live in Miller's Ridge, and there's some issues down there too.
With the drainage?
Yeah, coming down off the Breel there.
That retention pond changed water pressure.
Yeah.
Where the creek has recut in on my lawn, and there's a whole bunch of new dirt in it. Right there, because all it did was carve it off here and put it right there. He didn't know about it.
Yeah.
I just got. I dealt with the whole perception.
Here, your seat.
You're the superintendent of the schools? I know. Oh, thank you. It's awesome.
I was. A while ago. I was here when we built Gold, and we were able to get a bond issue passed, operating levy passed. And so I was.
So I don't know if you know Todd. Todd's on the school board now.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah. I remember your name.
Depends on who you talk to, whether how they feel.
We got all the schools built. That was good.
It's a very tough job.
Two boys. Service here, so alienated or
No. Both of my boys are.
5 years, you're at the 50%.
No, I'm like 30. Pushing 40. Pushing 40.
I'm not gonna put 40 out there. Right?
Thanks for the gospel. What's about yourself? Kids.
Just one. Yeah.
You, all right?
Well, she's 14. For the job.
Gotcha.
It's time. Now she's about 14 when her head's about this tall, running around.
You taking a picture?
Sending my girlfriend while I'm not at dinner right now.
On 10?
What's that?
We at 10?
Yeah, pretty good.
It's good.
We're good. Thank you.
You feel better? I understand.
Oh. Did you say your last name was Lang? You say your last name was Lang?
Yeah.
Steve Lang's wife? Oh, I thought you looked familiar. I'm Paul Nenny. I see you at church every once in a while. I used to. But I think you could. But yes, Steve's my wife's dentist. But yeah, known him for a long time. Yeah.
Okay, if I could ask everyone to please come.
Hey, you weren't on.
That's on.
Okay, check 1, 2.
You also have that gavel.
Yep.
Back in session.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to call the meeting back into session.
I don't think you're on.
I don't think I'm on. Yeah.
Hey, gang, we're going to start up again.
The mics are open.
Mine's on.
They heard me downstairs, right?
Probably.
It was like that line from
Check. Can you hear it? One, it's pretty quiet. Yeah. Hey, check 1. Wow. Is it working on there?
Hello? Yeah, a little bit.
So we got, the mics seem to have lost their volume, but.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right, we're going to call the meeting back to order now. Where we recessed, I was asking if there was anyone else wishing to speak in opposition. I'll ask that question again. Is there anyone else tonight that would like to speak in opposition to the proposal?
I'd like to
have the ability to even leave their homes. So there's another bit that the city just they can't get to it. We don't have the staffing or the equipment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Reiterate the real safety issue of my neighbor's husband had a 911 event right next door, and the ambulances came, and it was more than one. The police were there, and if it was at the wrong time, I mean, it's very, very dangerous when you have to experience the traffic to understand it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no one else wishing to speak in opposition. I'm going to close the public hearing. I know the applicant would like to address a couple questions. I will close the public hearing now. Sir, please come forward.
I'd like to thank everyone for all their questions, and I think, you know, some of this maybe explain the process would help everyone here as well. And the PD process is a two-step process. So a lot of the questions that you are asking are great questions, but we're not necessarily required to give that detailed of an engineering answer until that second stage of the PD process. So the first stage is approval on the general concept plan, and the second stage we get into more of the nitty-gritty engineering. But all of that engineering, whether we come in and we build what's allowed, so the SR1 zone, if we come in and build that, no one votes on that. The developer just follows the rules, hits the checklist, and they're allowed to build that development without getting these guys votes or permission. It's an outright development. With an outright development, there's going to be drainage, there's going to be detention ponds, there's going to be lift stations, and all of that stuff's regulated. So the drainage here needs to come off that site slower than so however fast that is draining now, when the development's done, it has to drain off there slower than it does now. So it should improve the downstream drainage. And that is whether we go with the PD with all these houses, or we go at the outright development. Same with sewage. Whether we put these houses in or we put the houses in that they're allowed by right to put in there. There's a lift station. All of the sewage, there's laws, regulations, requirements, that'll all be addressed either way, with either development. Same with the gas lines. Those easements and those gas lines and those restrictions that you all have on your houses, the same restrictions are here for this builder. Like I said, either way, with an outright development or with a PD development with this. So that's I just kind of wanted to explain that to everyone. So your concerns will be addressed by regulations and rules, no matter what's developed on this piece of property. As far as we just got the staff report here when you guys got it. We've heard all your concerns. We understand traffic's an issue. We understand density's an issue. So we'd like to get back to the drawing board here and give us a chance to table this, go back, take a look, address all your guys' concerns. I think at the same time maybe people were talking about coming in. I don't know that everyone here understands kind of the development and building game, but very few, except for maybe the large home builders, are developers and builders. So usually what comes in is a developer comes in and puts in the sewers and develops the lots, and then he sells these lots to home builders. So a lot of the time, most of the time, the developer doesn't necessarily know what home builder's going there. With that said, my client has no problems with offering restrictions as far as hardy board, no siding, and you can put that in the PD. They can put that as a condition of the PD, so you know what materials and products you're going. Therefore, any builder that comes in would have to follow those rules and regulations. So our client has no problem putting those restrictions, as a condition of of approval. And like I said, we're not trying to get this plan approved. We've heard your concerns. I think we'll go back, look at traffic. We know that's a major concern. Maybe develop the SR1, the at-right plan, a little bit further. That way, if this doesn't get approved, we're ready to go ahead and maybe submit that plan, and we can compare the traffic of the two, a little bit closer, and get a traffic study for you. It would be good to have either way, as well as I think they're up here with a little bit different market research than the majority of my clients are having as what the product is needed out there. But we can probably tidy that up too and come back with more information. Obviously, he's saying we didn't come in with everything, but no one's going to spend more money than what they're asked to do. We met the rules and regulations of what they ask us to provide, so we did that. And we're happy to go beyond that, but why would you do more than you're required to do? You're paying money. If you're going to get denied, then why would you spend all that money? We want to give you what you want, but if you want that stuff, put it in your regulations and we'll give it to you. So,
has the developer purchased the land at this point?
There's a contingency.
Have not.
Contingency of getting this approved.
Okay.
So, and we can look at other, like I said, other access would be very difficult without mowing down the entire site to move enough dirt to make it not economically justified. But we'll certainly do we hear the concern and we'll do our best. But if we come in with an outright development, we're not required to have two entrances. He can come in and build it with one entrance.
That would probably was incorrect. That would still have to come before Planning Commission. The plan would have to be submitted to Planning Commission.
Okay, I'm sorry. Usually there's a checkbox.
Yeah, that is not correct.
Okay.
I'm assuming the other subdivision met all the requirements you talked about. But you know what? I still have a drainage problem down after that retention pond went in, so I hope the engineering better for that kind of stuff, not just for me, but for wherever that water's going.
Sure. Well, I didn't design that,
Right.
but there's laws.
That's the
yeah.
example. They met the law, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I thought
I was a little confused as what you were asking. Are you withdrawing your application?
I'd like to table it and go back and address. I mean, we didn't get staff's report till I was here tonight, so I didn't know what any of these concerns were till 5 minutes before the meeting. So we'd like a chance to address them. I mean, we just learned of the concerns tonight. I mean, we understand density, we understand traffic, understand drainage.
We could table, but they can withdraw it, right?
Yeah, we're going to have some discussion about
whatever
your
the
request.
process is.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to add?
No, unless you guys got any questions.
Any questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing. And so, Mr. Metz, you've heard that the developer would like to table, like to hear from staff regarding this issue, recommendation or otherwise.
Would you like my recommendation, the staff's recommendation
Yes.
first?
Yes.
Okay. So based on the staff report provided, staff recommends denial of the preliminary development plan for the Riverbend development at 642 Miller. City Council will review the development plan and map amendment as a public hearing at the regular held meeting on November 15th. That is, if it continues to, if it gets approved and it moves forward on that process. Choices you have before you would be to either approve the preliminary development plan, approve with modifications, deny, or you could have a motion to continue at this point in time.
Time for deliberations.
Isn't there a limitation on continuing?
I'm sorry?
A limitation on how far you can continue?
Limitation on how far they could for continuation. It would probably only carry over to the next meeting. Is that correct? Or
I only have experience with it carrying over one once, but I would like to speak to our legal department before I give a final answer on that.
We need a motion to table it, right?
Well, we would, yeah.
So we don't have a motion on the floor at all.
We don't have any motions at this point.
I can tell you that I served on city council, city commission in the 1990s when we approved and facilitated the Braille extension. And it was always our intention that there were supposed to be executive homes on large lots all the way down the Braille extension, and no high-density subdivision was ever spoken of. And so I can tell you where I stand. I like the low-density homes that are out there right now, and if any more are built, I would be in favor of keeping the same lot size and everything. I think this is lot size are way too small, and too many homes, way too many. It's my 2 cents, and I'm not in favor of tabling.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have heard, one of the options is potentially to table. From what I've heard tonight, I would be in agreement with Mr. Ninny that I would not entertain the idea of tabling. I think just looking at the facts that we have before us, I think this development is completely incompatible with the area that we're talking about. And I'll give you time to respond, but regarding the density, we've heard testimony throughout the night, but regarding the density, I haven't heard so far that there's any indication that we'd be able to bring these down to scale in a way that would be compatible with the current neighborhood. We've heard numerous concerns about traffic, which could be addressed in some potential form, but again, going back to the notion of density, I don't see how this would be compatible. I think it would potentially have an adverse effect on property values in this particular area. I think the plan has always been that we would have higher-end homes in that area, as Mr. Ninny indicated. I'm in agreement with that. And we have also numerous concerns about the gas line, runoff, drainage, all sorts of issues there. I think your application is, I just, again, respectfully, I think it's completely incompatible with this particular area, so I would not be in favor of tabling. You would, if we were to vote this down tonight, you can always appeal to City Council for a second reading, but at this point, I would not be in favor of tabling. I would vote against it tonight.
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to deny.
I'll second.
Mr. Cornwall, you want to say anything?
I was going to say, I totally agree. I've taken my daughter to Mill Ridge several times, and the traffic is pretty terrible. It is. So when I originally seen this plan, I seen that there wasn't a second entrance or exit to be able to enter or exit out of the subdivision. I had my own concerns with that. And I also had a concern with a young kid passing away there. I know that was kind of inadvertently probably not directly involved there, but still the traffic is going to be a tremendous amount more. So those are some of my concerns. Now I do understand that eventually something's going to be built here, right? But this is just the wrong plan.
Roll call.
Todd Moore.
I would.
What are we voting on? Yes to deny?
Yes to deny.
Okay.
Yes for denial.
Paul Ninny.
Yes.
Jeremy Lacunas.
Yes.
Greg Emmerich.
Yes.
Roger Daniel.
Yes.
Sam Cornwall.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. Motion denied.
Thank you guys for your time, but in the future, if you could get the staff report a week or two in advance, it would help you address some of these problems before we come in here and get bombarded with their questions. So just a recommendation, because it's hard to come here without knowing, we knew density was a problem, we could have addressed it before we came in front of you guys. So.
Thank you, sir.
We'll let them know.
Thank you. Okay. Next on our agenda item tonight is old or new business. I did have a question. There were several folks tonight that talked about legal notices I know we have a minimum for legal notices, but it sounds as if some folks were really concerned about whether or not they had notices. Can we do anything to improve that in that area should this come back? Or the standard, I guess, is the 150 feet? Is it 200?
It's 200 feet or any property contiguous, and then additionally, it's posted within the journal.
Okay.
And then it's also posted in the city building.
Wouldn't the Riviera property be contiguous?
They would.
So one person was from Riviera. I think we were
Mailed out
missed
40,
it.
45 letters.
Okay, that's good.
It's always a good, as we've done this a bunch of times, it's always good that you guys stay in communication with one another. It's the most important piece. Don't rely on a letter. We know it's a legal requirement, but stay in touch with one another. That's the most powerful way to take care of stuff like this.
When it was published in the newspaper, because my grandmother never saw it. She went back multiple weeks to look for it.
Yeah.
Certainly, that could be provided.
Somebody did a nice job, because I live in Miller's Ridge, so I got notified on it. I knew about it from you before I knew we were going to be seeing this tonight.
NASCAR lady?
Okay. So I,
Notified us because we didn't get it.
So, I'd like to say something in front of the group. Thanks everybody for coming out to support this. It means a lot to Megan and I and her mother. I find it curious that the developer spoke about what he's legally allowed to do and what he could do and what this, that, and the other, and he never mentioned doing what's right. As citizens of this country often know that sometimes law and moral standards collide and they're not exactly. Range. So I found it pretty objectionable that that's the only thing that he mentioned was the law instead of doing what was right.
Pretty standard.
Thank you, sir. So that moves us now to adjournment. All those in favor?
Aye.
So meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.